Hi class. So this is our first lab and it's just going to be sort of an introduction to SPSS, and we are also going to create a histogram as well as um, look at measures of central tendency. So at the end of the lab you'll have something called output, or what the lab will, what SPSS will spit out, and that will be a part of what you turn in for your lab write up. Okay? Um, and while I'm going through this is mostly going to be an introduction to SPSS, but also going through some concepts we learned in class. So on your, so as you can see, I have exam score. So this is a SPSS data set. So this will be uploaded to the module for lab 1. All you have to do is open it. And I also have instructions for how to get a trial version of SPSS. So follow those instructions, install SPSS. Then you just open up the lab 1 dataset as lab1.sav. And then you should also listen to this video and watch it and go through the steps. But I uploaded slides, just step-by-step slides for SPSS, and so you can see that. But the first few slides, I felt like because I would do this, typically I would do the lab during class hours, and I felt like it was a waste of time for you all to enter data. So the first few slides for the lab 1 slides are to enter data and to get to know SPSS. But I already put together the data for you, so you don't have to enter it. And then I just want you to open up this data set. And right now I'm in under what's called data view. So you can see down here, it says data view, right? And so what data view shows you is the name of the variable, which is exam score. And then it'll show you the number of data points you have in this, what I call a data set. So it looks like there's 16. Make sure you have 16 rows, which corresponds to 16 data points, or what I've been calling during class your sample size, right? So that's n. Number for calculating standard deviation and variation, you needed to know n, right? So this is our total number of observations or data points, or our total number of n. And then each data point corresponds to an individual score, right? So you can see that we have two scores that are 9, about 6 scores that are 8, 2 scores that are 7, 1 that's 6, 2 that are 5, and 2 that are 0. And then, oops, sorry. So in addition, sorry, that was a little glitch. I have something called variable view. So when I click on that, I can see more details about my variable. So I can see that my exam scores here. So the type of variable it is numeric. Oops. And so I accidentally clicked on, so when you click on these 3 things, you can change it to something else. So what numeric it means is that it is made of numbers, right? Um, this is just saying how big the variable is, how many decimals, so how many numbers can fit within this variable. So we don't have to worry about these columns. You can put in a label. So I can put in a label like student exam scores. So you can put that in, and then when it prints out, you'll see that it will keep this label. I can set values, so we'll use this in a future data set. And also you can see the type of measure it is. right? So right now it's on scale, which means that it's individuals can have um, numbers across a spectrum, right? So that goes with numeric. And then if you remember, we learned about ordinal. So ordinal is having to do with order. So that's first, second, third place. That's um, so ranking, right? We don't know, and those are all things that are related to the idea that we don't know which variables, we don't know what the difference is between first and then second to third. Is not a consistent difference. And then nominal has to do with names, right? So that's where eye color, for example, is an example of a variable, or your favorite color, what state were you born in, things like that. So I'm going to just keep it, this is the correct measure that we want it on, okay? So then I'm going to go back to data view, because I like seeing my data. And the next step is we're going to create our histogram now. So if you go into graphs and then legacy logs, then histogram, so click that. And then you see how I relabel if you didn't relabel your variable or rename it, this is not going to show up, but I did, just for an example. So I'm just going to push it over to variable. So you just press this arrow to get it over to variable. Okay, and then we just need to press OK. Okay, so this is taking a lot of my computer power. So what you'll see pop up is something similar to this. I think it depends on what version of SPSS you have, but you should, if you downloaded the trial version, this is what it should look like. So let me make this a little bigger. And so you can see it created a histogram for us. I didn't want to say this during my lecture, but that's why I don't really focus on how to create histograms or frequency tables, because we have programs that can do it for us, and it's very easy to do. But you need to know, be able to know what you're looking at and understand what we're looking at, right? So across the x-axis, I have student exam scores. So I have 0 to ISO -2, 0 to 4, 6, 8, and 10. And it shows the number of observations or the number of data points in each of these. So remember how I said I had, I guess I actually had like 7 that had 8, 2 that are at 9, 2 that are 7, 1, 6, 2 5s, and 2 zeros, right? So that should be matching, and so this output window is a new window. So I just need to look at my data. I just press this data set again. So you can see, okay, 2 9s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, there were 7 8s. I miscounted the first time. 2 7s, 1 6, 2 5s, and 2 zeros. So that matches our histogram. See that? Also, I really like how it spits out our mean and standard deviation. So we actually should have asked the class to calculate the mean and standard deviation before running it, but this program calculates our mean and standard deviation for us. I also want to show you that you can change the number of levels for this histogram. So if we double click this graph, a new window should pop up. sorry, if you went on my other screen. So then if I go to, I need to go to properties. So yeah, that was properties. Okay, sorry. So you need to go, you need to press on the, so let me show you. So when I need to press on the actual data. Do you see how it's all highlighted now? And then I press properties. And so what I'm trying to do is I want to create a specific number of intervals or classes, right? Do you remember how we learned about classes? Pretty much creating how many different categories should this table be broken down into. So, um, so what I'm going to do here is change the interval width. And let's see what happens. So I changed it from automatic and I'm going to do custom. And so what that does is it makes the width of the intervals to 5, right? So this is now how many cases, or sorry, how many observations were from 0 to 5, and then from 5 to 10. Then you change, let's do 2. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so that's a little better, right? So from 0 to 2, there were 2 individuals, and those were the 2 zeros. 2 to 4, there were 0. 4 to 6, let's see, there are 2. And then 6 to 8, there are 3. And then 8 to 10, there are 9. 9 individuals. So now you can see it's sort of skewed to the higher number. Okay, and it's very important that you don't close, so you can now close this, and then it will update your graph in your output. Let's see if it closes. My computer is running sort of slow. Okay, so it finally closed, but it's sort of stuck. But make sure you don't close your output, this output 1 window. Okay, there it goes. There it updated. It updated my graph. Because this is what I'm going to ask you to turn in. Okay? So now I want to, even though we have mean and standard deviation and then n, right, the number of observations or the sample size of this data set, I want you to also look at descriptive statistics, everything that we've actually learned about. So what you just have to do is go to data, sorry, go to analyze, descriptive statistics, and then descriptives. And the only variable in this data set is what I'm interested in. So I push it over to variables. Then you press options. Okay, so we learned about a lot of these things. So we learned about mean or average, standard deviation. We also learned about variance and range. So I'm going to put those 2 in. A standard error, mean standard error, we haven't learned about that yet, so we don't need to look at that. Oh, we learned about skewedness, but we haven't learned about how to look at skewedness, but you can also see that. But there's a number associated with how skewed a data set is. So I'm just going to keep these descriptives in, these options, and then I will press continue. And then press OK. Okay, and so now it just popped up. So we can now see that our range, so so we can do this manually too. So our lowest score is 0 and our highest score is 9, right? So it's the highest score minus the lowest score. So that's 9 minus 0, and that's correct. That's our range. Our minimum and maximum scores, so 0 and 9. And then the mean, which was calculated for us, and this matches what's in our histogram, is 6.5. Our standard deviation is 2.8, and our variance is 7.867. So you will need some of these components to have for your write-up. And I will have an example of that in the slides. In addition, to save this output, there are a few different ways to save this. So this is very important. How I would save this is I would export it. Sorry. And then you want to browse on your computer, and I would save it just in Lab 1. And I would call it and then I would also change this to be a PDF. And so it will save in the directory that you choose. Okay? And then you just have to press OK, and it will save there. And then you can upload that. So you can upload multiple files to the lab. And so this is one of the files that you need to upload to the lab. And it's exporting, but it should save. So hopefully you'll be able to follow this step-by-step guide. And I also have the slides. But what's very important about this is not only is there output that's due, but I also want a write-up of this data in APA format. So I will upload this slide for how to report your data in APA format. So you can see it's the same descriptive statistics output. And so here is what needs to be done. So pretty much it just says quiz score data were collected from a small sample, n equal to 16. And notice that the n is italicized, okay? And then it says there were 10 points possible on the quiz. So it's telling us what the total amount of points that were possible. And the scores ranged from 0 to 9. And then notice that mean or sample mean is a italicized m equal to 6.25, comma, standard deviation, SD, is equal to 32. So here's another way to write this. The sample scores range widely on the 10-point quiz, range equal to 9. Though the mean score was somewhat low, a mean italicized equal to 6.25, the most common score was an 8, which was earned by nearly 44% of the sample. So these are two options. What's very important is that if you copy and paste this, I can't give you any credit for the lab, right? So you need to write this in your own words. Make sure that the correct like sample size, n is italicized, mean, m is italicized, SD, standard deviation is italicized. Okay, so that's how this is APA format. And I had a slide in the first lecture about what APA format is, but this is the example for this write-up. Okay, so the lab is due, I believe, on Monday. I need to double check that actually, but okay, sorry. So the lab is due next Tuesday, and I give you some time to be able to do it. But what is required is your output as well as your write up for the lab.